Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, February 3rd. This is episode 168. Don Harris, preeminent Spurs insider, back with us.
Hi.
With Matt Roy. Today just got a whole lot foxier. We are back.
Oh, I thought you were saying because I'm back at work.
Okay. Whatever you say. De'Aaron Fox, now a member of the San Antonio Spurs. We said it on Thursday when we were leaving. There might be trades happening this weekend, and boy, we're there. The entire face and balance of power in the Western Conference, to say the least, has changed with that trade and with the surprise blockbuster on Saturday night. Luka Doncic traded from the Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers. That one came out of nowhere. We'll get to both of them. Lakers fan Javier over here, pretty happy about it. We'll get to both of them. First, we do want to start with De'Aaron Fox. So De'Aaron Fox is now a San Antonio Spur. Zach LaVine is a Sacramento King. Anthony Davis, a Dallas Maverick. Luka Doncic, Los Angeles Laker. My mind officially blown from this weekend, but we want to start with the De'Aaron Fox
more to come
deal. Yeah, more to possibly. We're going to get to that in a little bit. I want to start with the De'Aaron Fox thing since the podcast is hosted by someone who has been covering the Spurs for 35 years, has seen a lot of stuff like this happen. This is the trade. Let's reference and look at that first. So the Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin from the Kings. The Kings get Zach LaVine from the Bulls, Sidi Sissoko, 3 first-round picks. I didn't put which ones that were on there because that would have been, the graphic would have been too messy. But 2025, 2027, 2031 first-round picks. I believe all of them came from the Spurs. Is that correct, Don?
Yes.
It was a Charlotte pick, a Minnesota pick, and then the Spurs 2027 pick.
The Charlotte pick won't convey. It'll be 2 second-rounders.
Yeah, it'll end up being 2 second-rounders because it's top 14 protected this year. And then a 2025 second-round pick and 2 2028 second-round picks. The Bulls, on the other hand, get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 first-round pick back from the Spurs, which was top 14 protected this year. So basically, they just get their pick back. Don, empty out the notebook for me. I know you've been out because you had a little operation on your nose last week, but you have been paying attention to this, has been tweeting up a storm, had kind of broke it on Friday with that all these talks were happening. Tell me a little bit about it. How did this deal come together?
Well, this deal is not what the deal was when everybody was talking about it last week. It's a different deal. The other deal kind of fell apart when DeJounte Murray tore his Achilles that night. And I tweeted out that 98% of these deals, the information, because the first tweet I put out was, I made a contact with an NBA source who I knew is in the front office, who was telling me that things are going down between the Spurs and the Kings, and it could happen today.
Pretty good source.
Very good source. And so it was like, it could happen today. They're working on it, blah, blah, blah. There were other tweets out there that it was a different deal. It was growing. It was going to 6 teams. All these things were happening. I can't speak for that information. But what I was told was there was a couple of teams involved that ended up not being involved in this deal. This ended up being a three-team deal. And the Bulls were not involved in the deal that I was reporting on Friday. And so
it was a 4-team deal originally on Friday.
It was a 4-team deal. And
why would the DeJounte Murray stuff switch it up?
Because the New Orleans Pelicans were one of the other 2 teams in the deal.
Got it.
And that changed what they wanted. Now, Murray wasn't going to be traded, but there was another player on their team that was going to be a part of the deal, and that changed their priorities. So anyway, that's why it was quiet over the weekend. And then the Spurs and Kings went back to work looking for something that would make this work, and they found Chicago. And LaVine makes this work because the Kings get a really nice ransom here. They get a really good player in Zach LaVine, and they get 7 draft picks or 6.
6, yeah.
And
well, maybe 7 if the Charlotte Hornets.
It's a nice haul, especially This deal happened after the Luka deal happened, and Luka's deal, when the Mavericks only get back AD and don't get and one pick instead of getting everything the Lakers had, it kind of cheapened the market for. I mean, it gave the Spurs a little more leverage. Like, Luka's only getting this. We're not giving up, that. But the fact that the Bulls were willing to give the Kings Zach LaVine, the Kings can look in the mirror and say, we got a pretty nice haul for De'Aaron Fox.
Is it fair to say that the Luka deal made the price of De'Aaron Fox go down?
Maybe. I think that could be. I don't know that as a fact in this particular trade that's true. But I think you can make the case that the market value based on the Luka deal would indicate as much. Now, let's be clear. The Spurs robbed everybody.
I was just about to get to that.
They robbed the Bulls. They robbed the Kings. Brian Wright was seen driving away in a getaway car. This was a master class in strategy and long-term planning. Let's go back, okay? Josh Richardson. Does anybody remember him?
Yeah, former Miami Heat great.
Right. When the Spurs traded him, they got 3 second-round picks. When they traded Jakob Poeltl to Toronto, they got a pick. When they traded DeMar DeRozan to Chicago, they got picks. When they traded DeJounte Murray to Atlanta, they got really good picks. And they have 31 of those. First and second round. Now, not anymore. It's 27 or 26.
They have 16 second-round picks. They have 6 of their own 7 picks in the next 7 years. They have 2 unprotected from Atlanta. They have pick swaps with Atlanta in 26. They have a pick swap with Boston in 28. They have a more favorable pick swap in 30, and they have a pick swap with Sacramento in 31.
So every time a DeJounte Murray left, a Derek White went to Boston, Herman Gomez, when they traded him, they got a second rounder. Every time the Spurs have made a trade in the last 4 or 5 years, they've accumulated picks. Everyone's like, oh. The one that was most glaring to me was the reaction on draft night last June when they drafted Dillingham for 5 seconds and then traded him for Minnesota's 2031 first-round pick, and all the fans just went nuts. Like, what are we gonna do with a 6th grader right now? How's he gonna help us in 2031? And I tweeted at the time, they're not gonna draft somebody in 2031 with this pick. They're gonna trade this pick, and they're accumulating all these picks for this reason. And sure enough, they waited for the right guy. They didn't force Trae Young. They didn't want Trae Young last year. They knew that there was a possibility that a Devin Booker, and you and I talked about this for months.
We've talked about this for months.
A Devin Booker is going to get unhappy. A De'Aaron Fox is going to get unhappy. A Luka Doncic is going to get unhappy. Somewhere down the road, one of these guys is going to get unhappy. And guess what? We have Wemby, and everybody's going to want to play with Wemby. Well, it happens with De'Aaron Fox. They're in prime position. They have the draft capital, and Chicago helps them out, but it's just great planning. And now everybody who hated the Dillingham trade is like, you go back and look, and you say, they traded DeJounte Murray to Atlanta for basically Victor Wembanyama, because it allowed them to tank and get him.
3-1.
De'Aaron Fox, 3-1s that they gave one of those back, that they still have 2 of those. So DeJounte Murray for Wemby, Fox, and 2 number 1s.
Unprotected number 1s.
Yeah. So it's less like it's highway robbery.
Yeah. Javier, can you pop that graphic up one more time? I want to just make note of the names that are not on this graphic.
For sure.
There is no Stephon Castle on that graphic. There is no Devin Vassell. There is no Jeremy Sohan. There is no Atlanta unprotected 2025, 2027 first-round pick. They held on to every single important asset.
Keldon was in the deal.
Yeah,
Keldon was in the deal last week, and somehow they avoided that and sent CD Sissoko instead.
They held on to their top 8, probably their top 8 assets. They held on to.
Yeah.
And now, yes, you have a good team centered around Wemby, centered around De'Aaron Fox, But you have those top 8 assets that you can use this week, next year, the year after that, to go get another star if and when you need one.
There was no way last week if you'd asked me, do they hang on to Atlanta's 25 unprotected and come away with De'Aaron Fox?
100%. There's no way.
I thought they would make Castle a non-starter. So as the talks continued, I knew that Castle wasn't going to be involved because that was going to be a non-starter.
Yeah, they love Castle.
Yeah, and then people around the league were saying, oh, they have to get Castle back. And I was like, there's no way you're getting Castle. But you might get the 25 Atlanta pick. The fact that that pick was not involved. In fact, last night, after Shams tweeted what the picks were, I tweeted, I kind of looked at it, redid it, and sent out my own tweet. And my son texted me, he said, Dad, your tweet's wrong. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they didn't give up Atlanta's 25. And I said, what? And I had to look at Shams' tweet again because I didn't believe it.
A lot of people didn't believe Shams' tweets this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't believe it. I was like, they got away with murder.
I don't understand how they did it. I really don't. Like, I think that the way that this looks like it came together, at least, is it was a really, really smart move by Brian Wright and RC and everybody in the Spurs front office that they needed to get a third partner to send a star to Sacramento.
For sure.
You get that, then you don't have to send your own star. Because all the talks were centered around the Kings want a help me now player and a help me in the future player.
I don't know what they're doing. They're trading Sabonis today, though. So now
Allegedly.
It looks like they're working on it. It looks like they're trying to blow it up now.
Yeah, but they got Zach LaVine, which is a help me now player.
Yeah.
And they got picks, which are help me in the future. So if they weren't able to get a Zach LaVine, a Brandon Ingram, a Jimmy Butler, insert name here.
If they don't get Zach LaVine, they have to have Castle.
Or they have to have Vassell. They have to have somebody.
I don't even think he's good enough.
I don't think so either, but I'm just throwing names out there.
Yeah.
They had to have somebody that would help them now and make sure that they can still remain semi-competitive. They got that. They got that in Zach LaVine, and they got 3 firsts.
And the other reason you're talking about leverage and why the Spurs were able to do this, make no mistake about it. From the very beginning of this deal, Rich Paul ran this whole thing. Rich Paul runs Clutch Sports. He's LeBron's agent. He's De'Aaron Fox's agent. Rich Paul wanted De'Aaron Fox with Wemby. De'Aaron Fox wants to be here with Wemby. And they used every bit of the leverage of Clutch Sports, basically saying, this is going to happen, and you're going to get him there. And so that took some of – because we'll wait, We'll wait. We won't. We'll tell every other team, you want to trade him somewhere else? We'll tell those teams there's no way we're re-signing with you because Fox has to sign a max contract.
I don't understand how even putting those pieces together and saying, oh, they needed Zach LaVine in the deal to not trade Castle. I don't understand how the Kings get for what they got for De'Aaron Fox. Like, they should have gotten more.
The market wasn't there. I mean, that's the going rate, I mean, you think about the Mikal Bridges trade with the Knicks, it was 5 number ones.
Yeah.
And a player or two.
Rudy Gobert's the one that's the outlier, the albatross trade.
They get 5 number ones?
Yeah, they got like 5 ones for Rudy Gobert. That's why everyone in Dallas is upset because they got 5 ones for Rudy Gobert. Why are you getting 1 pick and
so
Anthony
that's what
Davis?
I said from the beginning. I think the Kings did okay. They get Zach LaVine and 6 picks. It's not horrible.
Didn't do as well as the Spurs did.
No. Spurs are the big winners.
All right, so De'Aaron Fox, what's the status now? I saw your tweet earlier. They're going through physicals, all that stuff. When's he going to join the Spurs, and what's the timeline here? Because I think I also read something this morning that the Bulls need to do some finagling with their roster. They're at 17 on their roster right now, so they need to cut a couple of people to make this trade go through. So
it's interesting. It's a good look behind the curtain of how these things work. This deal's never done until everybody passes a physical, right? So LaVine has to go to Sacramento, and Fox and McLaughlin have to come here, and other players have to go. Trey and Zach have to go to Chicago. They all have to have physicals. Fox and McLaughlin are getting theirs today from the Spurs doctors. I would assume everybody else is doing the same thing in those cities. Once everybody clears their physicals and their rosters, the Bulls take care of their housekeeping with their extra players, then the NBA will formally sign off on the deal. Everybody goes about their business as if this will be completed Wednesday, and that we will see Fox in a Spurs uniform Wednesday night in Atlanta. Not necessarily true, but that's what I would assume will happen if everything goes smoothly and Zach LaVine doesn't have a inflamed kidney that doctors have not expected.
Those physicals aren't very strenuous either.
No, but we've seen him change. Sean Elliott, Sean Elliott needed a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
And when he got traded from Detroit to Houston, that trade got voided.
Happy birthday, Sean Elliott, by the way.
Happy birthday, Sean. That trade got voided because they found abnormalities with Sean's kidney, which showed up years later when he ended up needing the kidney transplant. And that deal got voided. And that's why the Spurs were able to get Sean back in a later trade, was because the trade to Houston didn't work out because Sean didn't pass his physical.
Last year, you and I sat here, probably after that Dillingham trade, you, me, and Chuck sat here. They're not going to make 37 picks over the next 7 years. They're going to use these assets to trade for somebody who fits. They were patient, they were prudent, they were meticulous, they were playing chess when everyone else was playing checkers, and they got it done. Why is it De'Aaron Fox, though, that fits so well alongside Victor Wembanyama?
Well, first of all, he's 25 points a game, right? So there's nobody on the Spurs roster other than Wemby coming close to that. Devin Vassell's averaging 16.
Well, he was hurt and came off the bench for a little while. But
okay, but Devin Vassell's career average is 14. He can be a 20-point scorer, but he hasn't been, and he's the closest thing they had to a 20-point scorer was Devin Vassell, and he's nowhere near 25. This guy can flat out fill it up. He's not having his best year, but when you go back and you look at his body of work, when that game happens the other night and Miami gets that last shot and Chris Paul misses it, and then Bam Adebayo hits it, it's going to be Fox with the ball in his hands on that possession before the last possession for Miami. This guy is a closer. You can ISO him. He's the guy like Jason Tatum. He's the guy like Kevin Durant. He's the guy you clear out. He's the guy that's going to get a bucket. And he can. And he's proven that he can. He can also get all the way to the rim. And he can draw defenses, and he can assist. He's going to be great for Wemby. I don't know that he's not like, I don't know who would be. He's not Luka, right? He's not the greatest player in the NBA, but he's an all-star.
Ja Morant or De'Aaron Fox? Who would you take?
I'd say Ja's the better player, but as far as a team fit, I might pick Fox.
Okay.
But Ja Morant is,
that's
super.
the comp, though. It's that kind of
Shea
player.
Gilgeous-Alexander is the number one
Obviously,
right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like SGA, and that's why they didn't want to get rid of Castle, because they think he has SGA-like
He has
ability.
potential. Yeah, but Fox is really nice.
When it comes to the fit, though, it's like I saw on ESPN yesterday, De'Aaron Fox is one of the preeminent point guard, pick-and-roll point guards in the NBA.
For sure.
When you have Wemby, who is, I think, one of the preeminent pick-and-roll men in the NBA, and then you have Chris Paul, who is also one of the best pick-and-roll point guards in the NBA, you have completely altered your offense now. You know exactly who is going to have the ball, how this is going to work. Now you need shooters around him. You might need another big. There's other pieces that you need. But the way that their styles fit is exactly why Brian Wright wanted him on this team.
For all you Spurs fans who've been complaining that Wemby's teammates don't know how to get him the ball, that kind of went away when Chris Paul came. But that won't be an issue anymore.
No, he's the exact right Robin for Wemby's back.
100%.
Like he plays the style of ball that the Spurs need and Spurs want.
100%.
Defensively might not be the best, which the Spurs have their own defensive issues. I think I would argue that if Wemby was playing against the Heat, that Bam Adebayo doesn't get that shot off.
True.
But I was sitting with like 20 rows up, and I was like, oh, this is going in.
I thought the same thing. but Castle's going to be their lockdown perimeter defender. So.
Yeah. 100%. When it comes to how the lineup is going now, though, I mean, CP3 came here to play. CP3 now goes to the bench, I assume?
I don't know. He's a big boy. He wants to do what's right for the team, and he gets it.
What's the lineup? What's your ideal lineup then? Starting five with De'Aaron Fox on the team.
Fox at the 1, Castle at the 2, Devin at the 3, Barnes at the 4, Wemby at the 5. Bring Sohan and Paul off the bench. Keldon off the bench.
Sohan, Paul, Keldon all off the bench first.
Yeah.
See, but
that's a small team.
It's a really small team,
and that's what we could open that this. I don't know if we can want to go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs done trading is my next one. So,
but you have. First of all, I don't give up the Atlanta pick at all because
especially not now.
They're going into the tank, and Cooper Flagg is out there.
Unless you're trading for Devin Booker.
I don't know. I think right now you risk. You have to hang on to the craziest hope that Cooper Flagg falls your way. If he doesn't,
so insane.
But this draft is really deep. You're going to get a great player at the top 5, top 6 picks if you're so lucky. But I would consider moving one of the Spurs' good players in Devin, Jeremy, Keldon, and a pick or two. Not all of them, but
some combination.
Some combination. One in a pick, 2 in a pick, whatever. To trade equal value, like a player as good as Devin Vassell, who's 7 foot and 245 pounds. One of those big guys like Valanciunas or Nurkic or whoever.
An
enforcer, somebody that can guard the physical bigs, that can guard the guys that are pushing Wemby around.
Like the Isaiah Hartensteins.
Who's the guy who pushed him around the other night from
Miami or
no
Milwaukee?
I mean, Bam did.
Brooke?
No.
Giannis? When they played Milwaukee on Friday?
No, it wasn't Milwaukee. It was a
Clippers
Nurkic
on Wednesday?
type. Yeah, Zubats.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zubats had his way with Wemby pretty easily. And you have to guard those guys. So I think they need a big, and I think they need a sniper. They need a Kevin Huerter.
Yeah, well, they need that. I don't know if that's going to be this year, though.
I know.
As this team's currently constructed, what is their ceiling?
This year?
This year. What is their ceiling right now? They are
7th seed.
12th place in the West, I believe. 11th place in the West. They're 4.5 games out of the 7th seed.
I think, yeah, 7th seed. I think that's where you set your bar. You don't want to be 8. You'll get swept by OKC in the first round. If you can get to 7, you can make it interesting.
As far as the trades are going, do they make another move this week?
I don't know because they've been so patient, right? So even this move is a bit surprising because they just usually don't do it. They have the beauty of this is they came away out of this deal with so much left over that maybe they're looking at each other in the office. right. We still got. It's like when you go spend your kid at the candy store and you buy all the candy you want,
left.
and the guy at the counter gives you change back, and you're like, I can get 4 more pieces of bubble gum. So they've got money to spend. They've got assets. They've got players.
But at this point, do you think they want to spend the last 35 games or so of the season seeing how this fits and then seeing exactly
maybe
evaluating once again in the offseason?
It depends because if teams are over eager, like the Spurs have found 2 suckers.
And they keep trading with those 2 suckers.
Yeah.
They're just like, all right, Atlanta, Kings, what do you guys got?
Yeah. I mean, they still got their pick from Harrison Barnes trade from Sacramento.
I know.
And so, like, if there's going to be other teams and people I've talked to in the league since the Luka deal have said all bets are off. You don't know how crazy these GMs are going to get and risk things now after seeing the empowerment of what Nico Harrison has done for other GMs now to empower them to make the most ridiculous trades as possible.
Just call the Mavs up, see what they've got. They're prone to making bad trades.
I think the Spurs will kick the tires and be open to exploring anything, but I think they'll remain prudent and do what makes the most sense.
That makes sense. One thing's for sure, this team's going to be a lot more fun to cover this for the last 3 months of the season than they were before, or 2 months of the season than they were the last 4 months. Let's get to the Mavs trade. The one that really shocked everybody across the NBA. And I say that because I was about 2 minutes from falling asleep Saturday night. And then Shams' tweet came out.
I texted you, didn't I?
Yeah, you texted me. I had to check. I had to do a wellness check on our photographer Colton because he was disheveled and not happy at all.
I happened to be scrolling through X and I saw Shams' tweet. It said 2 seconds ago. And I read it and I was like, "What? No, that's not right. Whatever." It
had to have been fake.
It was like a weird thing, and I went back and I went, okay, this is Shams. This is Luka. This is AD. And my initial reaction is to retweet. And I went, okay, I can't retweet this because this is fake.
It has to be fake.
I have to check on this. And I started looking around. Nobody else had anything. I go back, and then there's Shams with a tweet. This is not a fake tweet. And I was like.
And then you have Michelle Beadle, our friend Michelle Beadle, who verified it and is like, I just checked. This is not fake. Yeah. And then Bobby Marks at ESPN said, this is not fake. This is real, and comes out with contract details. And we're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
This is the one that shocked everybody. The end of my story was I was up for another 3 hours. Just learning and reading and tweeting.
I turned on ESPN to watch Windhorse and Stephen A.
It was insane. Like, it was just, this came out of absolute nowhere. And a couple of things about the trade, and Javi, you can go ahead and pop that up if you want. This is what the trade was. The Mavs get Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris, the Lakers get them from the Mavs. The Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and an unprotected first-round pick. I think that was the only first that the Lakers could have traded this year. It's a 2029 pick. And then the Jazz somehow get into this deal as well because Ainge just can't help himself. And they get the Lakers guard, Jalen Hood, and 2 second-round picks. I feel like Danny Ainge, just anytime he can accumulate a second-round pick, he's like, please give me more. But that's the trade that came out Saturday night. I didn't even know what to think about it. I spent most of the day yesterday pondering how it makes sense. Like, just thinking from Nico Harrison's point of view, how does a trade like this make sense? You're trading a top 3 player in the NBA, a potential top 20 player of all time at the end of his career, if everything goes right.
Okay,
for Anthony Davis, who is perennially injured,
having a great year,
having a great season, had a great season last year, has been healthy the last couple of years, maybe put those injury concerns behind him, but has missed a lot of games in his career. He has the moniker Anthony Street Clothes Davis for a reason.
But he makes the Mavericks championship contenders this year.
They already were.
True. That's true.
They already were. I don't think this changes their trajectory this season. What it changes is how they play. It changes how they play. And that's something you don't change mid-season, though. You now need to completely adjust the way you play because you don't have Luka. You now have AD playing next to Blake Lively, and you now have the Twin Towers aspect of this.
They're big.
Like the Cavs and the OKC.
Did you say Blake Lively?
Excuse me, Derek Lively. Derek Lively. Wish they had Blake Lively. Anyway, Derek Lively. Sorry, Ryan.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I remember having to defend this thinking when the Spurs had a guy named number 2 play here.
What was his name?
And he left for Toronto, and all the Spurs got back was DeMar DeRozan. And I remember thinking and saying, even if Toronto wins a championship, and even if he goes on to be a great player, I admire RC and Pop for choosing the culture and the program and the standard that they built for 20 years over one guy who wanted to do his thing. And you can argue that it was the wrong move because it set them back years and he went on to win a championship and all that. But they were never going to give him the Supermax, not with his quad injury and not with his uncle and the things that made Kawhi leave the team to do his own thing. And I'll say this, the Mavericks may know something about Luka that the rest of us don't. And the assumption is that you want your leader, your best player, to be the first guy in, the last guy to leave, the guy who's working the hardest in the gym, the guy who's lifting the weights, the guy who's encouraging young players and lifting people up, the guy who's not 268 pounds and swilling a beer in the hallway after a game or a practice. I mean, there's a lot out there.
Here's the difference in that, though. At that point, when the Spurs traded number 2, they had won 5 championships.
Right.
They had the culture already. You could argue that the Mavericks aren't that. They haven't won a championship since 2011. Yes, they went to the finals last year, but they don't have that sort of cachet, that sort of prestige that at that point the Spurs were coming off 4 years ago. They won a championship.
No, there's no question about that. What I'm saying is go back and look at Game 3 of the finals last year. Luka gave a game away because he can control his emotions.
Yep.
And that's kind of who he's been, both in EuroLeague ball and in NBA ball.
He's a hothead.
Huh?
He's a hothead.
He's not only a hothead, he's immature. And I think that immaturity might go into other aspects of the culture there that we don't know about. It may bother his teammates, it may not. But they might have said, look, we got to make a decision on this guy next year anyway, and he's going to get $350 million. Is our organization prepared to give $350 million to a guy that we don't believe in? The exact opposite is Dak Prescott, who's not Luka Doncic on the field.
Yeah.
But he is everything you want in a leader. He's everything you want in work ethic. Mm-hmm. He's everything you want in the community. He's all of that. So Jerry Jones is so fooled by all of that he gives him max money when he's not a max money player. Luka is a max money player by any measure, but he's not going to get it because he's not the guy that Dak is.
I mean, he'll get it from LA now.
He can't. He's going to lose $119 million.
Well, he'll sign a 3-year deal, and then he'll get to his 10-year max, and then they'll give him the supermax in 10 years at year 10 of service.
He's still losing $119 million.
He's losing a lot of money. Plus, the taxes in California are insane. Yeah. So he's losing even more than that.
He just finished building a $15 million house in Dallas.
Jeez. I think at this point now we're 2 days away from the trade, and it's the shock value is starting to wear off now. I think when I had the same reaction you did. Like, I had to double check and triple check to make sure that this was actually legitimate. And when the preeminent insider in the NBA in sports tweets something out and it's so outlandish that everyone is like, he has to be hacked, the trade probably wasn't ideal. Like, yes, this probably is not going to be as bad as the hyperbole and hyperbolic statements that so many people are making, which that it's the worst day in Dallas history.
In 3 days when AD gives them 30 and 20.
Yeah, and they win a game.
Yeah.
It also didn't help that yesterday they were down 91-46 at halftime to the Cavs.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, nobody was playing, but it wasn't good optics.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the worst thing in the world. Like, this was not that bad of a trade. Now that you really look at it and ponder, you gave up a top 3 player for a top 10 player. You only got 1 pick. What are you going to do with it? If they win a championship in the next 3 years, I guarantee you that
it's all for
nothing. Like, they won the trade if you win a championship in the next 3 years. But this is a trade that we're going to be playing what if about for the next 10 years.
Well, here's the thing. 2 things make this a good trade for Dallas. If they win a championship in the next 3 years.
If Luka retires. Or
if Luka breaks down, his body breaks down, he all of a sudden they look back and they say, we had him in his prime years. But he's only 25. And if he goes on to have the career everybody thinks he's going to have, this is going to be one of those all-timers. Nico Harrison is going to be a punchline.
Here's the last question on that. Why wouldn't you open it up? If you're going to trade Luka, why not open it up to everybody? Because it gives off a little bit of a stench when you think, Nico Harrison was the brand manager for Kobe Bryant back in the 2000s, and Rob Pelinka was the agent for Kobe Bryant back in the 2000s, and nobody else knew about this trade except for those two people. So that part, I guess, doesn't pass the smell test.
I think you can't open it up because of who Luka is.
You have to be the most prudent franchise of your assets that you can. You have to normally open it up and say, okay, give me your best offers.
But everything in this league gets out, right? And Rob Pelinka is the only guy you can trust if you're going to do this deal. If you start to talk to anybody else, if word gets out to Luka, and then something doesn't work out for your favor, then Luka's soured on you on the Mavericks. It puts you in a weird position with that 345 going down. You might have to pay it. It just keeps all the gossip. Everybody knows what everybody's doing in the league. I mean, everything gets out. I've never seen this.
So thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for who will listen on the podcast version. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. We'll be back on Deadline Day. Deadline Day this Thursday. We'll see you then.
I like a 77 jersey.
I like it.
He's a hell of a player if he's not a
that didn't
that
connect to YouTube though, so it didn't go live on YouTube. So I'm gonna have to upload it when I get back up there. Heads up.
Okay, I'm gonna go cut it right now.
Yeah, his personal trainer. Yeah. LeBron spent $2 million a year on stage shade.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's hope that happens.
If Luka can stay on the vodka bottle.
That's true.
Vodka's fine. Beer is not. Vodka has no calories. You can drink all the vodka you want.